Countdown to Halloween 2023, featuring eerie and uncanny tales of haunts, ghosts, and suspense. October is finally here. Join us all month for special Halloween presentations on Storylink Radio's YouTube channel as we count down to Halloween 2023. Keep a close eye on YouTube alerts or you'll miss one. Celebrate October with us right here and now. Tonight's presentation from Storylink Radio. Nightmare. Todd was in a hurry. Todd planned to meet his friends Paula and Charles at Levi's drugstore after school. Today was delivery day for new magazines. He was anxious to get a copy of the latest Monster Madness. It was a double issue and included details for a drawing contest that Todd wanted to enter. Todd was a true and faithful fan of Fright. Frankenstein, Dracula, the werewolf, the creature from the Black Lagoon. Yes, Todd knew all of the stories in complete detail. Ghost stories were good, sure, and he wouldn't turn up his nose in an alien adventure. But tales of monsters were Todd's favorite. The scarier, more gruesome they were, the better. His notebook was filled with drawings of sharp-fanged, drooling beasts stalking through darkened streets, searching for unsuspecting victims. By the time he arrived at Levi's, his friends were already perched on the bench outside the store. Charles was working the monster maze, a feature that was always appeared at the end of the magazine. Paula, sipping a soda, was deeply engrossed in his story. Todd quietly leaned his bike on a kickstand and crept up behind his friends. Yeah! He roared. Both kids jumped. Paula dropped the can, and a small fizzy brown puddle quickly formed on the sidewalk. Geez, Todd, you scared me to death. Oh, I'm sorry, he said sheepishly, picking up the container. I'll buy you another soda. No, it's okay, Paula grinned. It was warm anyway. She held up her copy of Monster Madness and pointed to the cover. The illustration was a very tall, thin, scaly green beast covered with green, slimy algae. Its skinny arms reached well below its knees. It had left a dripping trail from the lake to the door of the cabin, a cabin that probably housed unwary human victims. The title on the cover read, The Creature from Luckless Lake. There's some great stories this month. Isn't this guy the creepiest? It's enough to give me nightmares for a week. Charles rose to his feet. Nah, my favorite's the alien brain beast. Talk about nightmares. He held up the magazine, open to a drawing of a hideous bug-eyed creature. Exposed to the top of its large head was a huge, greasy-looking brain laced with blood vessels. Could you imagine coming face to face with this guy on your next trip to Dreamland? Todd laughed nervously. He'd been having some unpleasant dreams himself lately, actually. Although they were unsettling, he decided not to tell his parents. His mom didn't like him reading things like Monster Madness, and if he told her about the nightmare, she'd stop him for sure. To cover his own uneasiness, Todd chided, Yeah, and think how this brain beast would be if he got a look at you. Ha! Giggling, the kid strolled into the drugstore. Todd picked up his own copy of the magazine and counted out exact change at the register. He leafed through it as they walked out into the waning afternoon sunshine. They all lived in the same street, 5 blocks away. Todd wheeled his bike along as they headed home. So which one do you think is scarier? Charles asked. The brain beast or the lake creature? I don't think either one's very scary, Todd replied. I could make up something better than both of them put together. Paula rolled her eyes. Okay, then. What kind of monster would you make up? Todd thought for a moment, then began to describe his ultimate terror. The creature that had been haunting his dreams lately, actually. First of all, it'd be about my size. Oh, come on, Charles interrupted. What's so scary about a midget? He was always good-naturedly kidding Todd about being the shortest boy in class. Don't laugh, Todd shot back. Because of its size, the monster can hide in shadows and get very close. It could even hide in the shadows of your own bedroom. Charles and Paula looked at each other. The sun was nearing the horizon. The shadows of the trees reached out toward them like long, dark fingers of a disembodied hand. Its size wouldn't matter, Todd continued, because it would have super strength. It could rip your arms from its socket without any trouble. Paula suddenly stopped. She was searching the branches of a low hedge just ahead of them. Did you see that? She asked. No, what? Charles' voice was a little uneasy. It was dark and furry, sort of like a big dog or a bear or something. Charles chuckled. Come on, there are no bears around here. That's right, Todd chimed in. There are no bears. He knew he was making his friends nervous, so he made his voice as spooky as possible. And it probably wasn't a dog either, he said, although he was certain that it was. It had thick brown fur, didn't it, Paula? She nodded, her eyes growing wide. If you'd gotten a better look, you would have seen fiery red eyes and long, shining claws. A rustling sound in the bushes made the three walk a little faster. Even Todd was getting anxious now, but he had the full attention of the audience and wasn't about to give it up. The only thing longer and sharper than the shadow monster's claws are its teeth. Oh, and one other thing, it has a long, rough tongue for stripping meat from the bones so it doesn't leave behind a single scrap. Todd felt particularly pleased with that detail. He had read that lions had rough tongues for such purposes, and it seemed to work well for his monster. It was certainly effective. Both Paul and Charles grinned uncertainly. We better hurry up, Charles said. It's getting dark. They covered another block in no time, and Todd waved goodbye to his friends. He jumped on his bike and rode the last half block alone. As the shadows lengthened, he became aware of a strange sound, something like a light tapping or scraping noise. He turned and looked behind him. There was nothing there. Still, he pedaled a little faster toward his house. After dinner that night, Todd did his homework, then got ready for bed. His parents always allowed him to read for a little while in bed, and tonight he used the time to finish 2 of the stories in Monster Madness. When his mom and dad came in to turn his lights out, his mom picked up the magazine and leafed through it. Todd, I'm really not sure you should be reading this sort of thing. I'm afraid it's going to give you nightmares. His dad came to his rescue. Oh, honey, it's only make-believe. I used to read that stuff when I was a kid. It's fun. Yeah, Mom, Todd agreed. It's just for fun. I really don't believe any of it, of course. Still, after his parents turned off the lights and closed the door, Todd pulled the covers up to his chin. He scanned the room, trying to see into all of its dark places. Then he drifted off to sleep. In his dream, Todd had just hit a home run and was sliding into home plate when he sensed something strange along the back of his leg. The feeling was odd enough to tug him from sleep back to reality. He wriggled his leg, but the sensation did not stop. Something rough was lightly scraping the back of his knee. Now wide awake, Todd opened his eyes. He was facing the wall, but he could easily make out the shadow of something leaning over his bed. Turning ever so slightly, he caught a glimpse of the figure. It wasn't very large, but it was powerfully built and covered with thick, dark fur. One furry hand rested slightly on the edge of the bed, and he saw its long claws glinting in the moonlight. To his horror, Todd realized that whatever the thing was, it was licking the back of his leg with its sandpaper-like tongue. Gathering all of his courage, the boy suddenly yanked his leg away, rolled off the opposite side of the bed, and the creature raised itself and uttered a chilling cry. He could see its blood-red eyes grow large. The beast began to edge toward the door. It's trying to cut me off, Todd realized in panic. I've got to stop it. He picked up his bedside lamp and hurled it at the creature, screaming out, Mom! Dad! The beast howled and lashed out at him with razor-sharp claws. Todd managed to sidestep the blow as he leapt onto the bed, the beast circling behind him. His path to the door was clear now, but when he tried to jump from the bed, his feet became tangled in the sheets. Todd tumbled to the floor, hitting his head so hard that it made him dizzy. The creature howled. Todd could see saliva dripping from its dagger-like fangs. The terrified boy scrambled to his feet and managed to make it to the hallway and staggered toward his parents' room. He found their door standing open. In the moonlight from the single open window, Todd could distinguish 2 large, still figures in bed, unmoving and blood-stained sheets. He barely knew there was only one window on the far wall where he thought there should be 2. Stunned, Todd leaned against the doorway. Oh no! Oh no! This can't be happening! As if in answer, he heard the shuffling sound of the beast as it moved toward him in the darkened hall, with snuffling and slavering at the mouth. Todd backed slowly into his parents' room. It looked different somehow, not quite as it should be. For a moment, the creature paused in the doorway and looked at the lifeless figures in the bed as if it too recognized them. Moaning lightly, it took an uncertain step toward the bed. Then it raised its lip in a terrible grimace and advanced toward Todd. Horrified, the boy stepped back as far as he could. He found himself pressed up against a dresser, one he couldn't recall ever being there before. His hand slipped across the polished top until he felt something familiar. It was a large sewing basket. A pair of sharp scissors rested beside it, just out of reach. Todd slowly stretched his fingers toward the scissors while keeping his eyes on the beast's crimson pupils. Almost. Suddenly the creature lunged, knife-like claws extended toward Todd's throat. The boy felt a sharp pain, and then something warm and wet began to drip down his neck. In a final effort, he gripped his scissors and stabbed at the monster with all his might, making a deep slice across one of its outstretched paws. The beast roared in anguish, cradling its hand and crying. Within seconds, the room's lights came on, revealing the small furry creature sitting up in bed. Posters of snarling humans stared down from the walls, and books of scary human stories were lined up on the bedside shelf. The beast's worried parents swept into the room. Its mother gently soothed her frightened child. "Was it another bad dream, dear?" She picked up a magazine that had slipped to the floor beside the bed. A picture of a human with its teeth bared and a pair of needle-sharp scissors in its hand threatened from the cover. The title identified the story as Todd the Terror. She looked accusingly at the large male beast at her side. "I told you he shouldn't read that nonsense before bedtime." Then she turned back to her whimpering little monster and started to tuck it back in. "There, dear. Don't cry. You're all right now. There are no such things as humans. They're only make-believe." You've just heard tonight's story from Storylink Radio's Countdown to Halloween 2023. Remember to come back for our next tale. Many more stories of all genres available to listen to and read along with now on our website at www.storylinkradio.com. Visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/storylinkradio. And visit our podcast for easy mobile listening anywhere, anytime. Just search for Storylink Radio on your favorite podcast provider. Oh, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click that alert bell for Storylink Radio.